So,
Yeah, before we start going through, let's talk about the story a little bit
of
of the Patriot.
the Patriot. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, let's tell them what it is.
Mel Gibson,
Mm-hmm.
farmer in Virginia, correct?
Yep. No, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
And chairmaker.
Yes. He he's like not for the war. You know, he doesn't want to fight.
And this is about the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, he thinks, that we definitely deserve better than we're getting from the British.
And we
but
shouldn't.
He doesn't think that it's worth fighting for. And then his son goes off to war.
Mm-hmm.
And then his son gets hurt in a battle and ends up coming home. And then I think it's like the next day, more soldiers show up.
British soldiers, yeah.
There's a battle that's like right outside their home, basically, on like the fields next to where they live. And so they take in American and British soldiers to give them aid and, fix them up. And then more British people show up, and they kill all of the American soldiers there, and they're gonna hang his son. And so
as a spy.
Yeah, and so his second oldest son tries to stop him and gets shot.
Yeah.
So after he gets shot, he's like, okay, well, I guess now I'm just going to murder every British man that's in our country.
And, oh my God. Murder every British soldier. Like we're,
Yeah. But
he takes up arms. And that's kind of where where the story, picks up into the main, story.
And then at first, dude, the first battle that was cool, he takes his other two children, his other two sons. He has 7 children in total. Now he has 6. But he takes the other 2 boys that he has, and he takes them with him, and they find the people that I think it's 20 soldiers, they said. It's the soldiers that have his oldest son captive that are going to hang him, and they just guerrilla warfare and destroy them. It's pretty rough. He messes him up. The last dude that he kills, he just
goes all
hacks him to pieces with a tomahawk.
Yeah. It was and I guess we'll get into the rest of the story when we get into the rating. We talk about it there, but generally that's the setup for the movie. And in fact, what he says when he was called to be into a delegate meeting for South Carolina. He was called upon to come there, and that's one of the first things that happens. And he goes there, and his reasoning for not wanting to get into the war, he says, am I angry about taxation, about representation? Yes. Do I think that the American colonies should govern themselves? I think they can, and I think they should. But if you're asking me if I'm willing to go to war with England, then the answer is most certainly no. And when they were, challenging him, somebody called him a coward, and even one of the colonial colonels was like, hey, no, he's not a coward. I've fought with him before.
Yeah,
and he says,
you haven't seen the things this man will do.
Yeah, and he says, I have 7 children. My wife is dead. Who is to care for them if I join in the war? He even says,
their aunt.
Well, why would I? Yeah. Why would I join? Why would I trade one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away?
Yeah.
Democratic government can violate our rights just as much as King George.
As proven.
But
in the last couple months.
But yeah, no, so he's very reluctant to get into the war, and it's not until his son is killed that he joins the fight.
By Lucius fucking Malfoy.
Yeah.
Jason Isaacs himself.
Jason Isaacs is in there. Good villain.
But anyway, he does after him and his 2 boys kill a shit ton of Britishmen. He goes and he joins the army, and he takes his kids to their aunts, and he pretty much is in charge of the militia, and him and the militia, he's got what was the French guy's name?
I don't remember.
Crap, man. He's got the French dude with him. And they make a pretty good team. I really liked this scene when they were trying to recruit men, and they go to this bar, and the dude's like, I don't think these are the kind of people we're looking for. He's like, these are exactly the kind of people we're looking for.
Yeah.
He's like, for example, all hail King George, and then they just like start throwing tomatoes and knives at them as they run away.
After they pulled out their guns, like
yeah. They all
playing.
stand up and pull their guns out. I
a-
was just like, yeah, this is what's up.
There was a band playing, and like the violin, you can just see the violin going. Like, they all turn.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this is the place. I mean, he picks up all kinds of like colorful characters, you know.
Yeah, apparently a lot of them knew him.
Yeah, they knew of him.
Probably from the French and Indian War.
Yeah, and because he's like, you know, a local farmer.
Yeah.
So, do you want to get into the?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get in.
Awesome.
Oh well, real quick.
Oh yeah, sponsors.
He does end up. I want to talk about the scene where he gets his 18 prisoners back.
Oh, yeah.
So you know, back then, officers didn't really die in battle. You killed everybody else, and the officer was like, okay, whatever. Now I'm like a prisoner or something. Well, good old Mel Gibson didn't give a shit about that rule. For his men, it was if there's somebody on a horse, somebody that looks important, they die first. And they end up capturing 18 of his men. And before that, Mel Gibson captures. He gets a bunch of like personal belongings of Cornwallis. And two of those belongings being his beautiful Great Danes. And so he takes the Great Danes to him, and they like start negotiating, and he tells him, he's like, yeah, if you don't release my men, then I'm going to kill 18 of your officers, 19 if you kill me. And he shows them they have 19 officers captive.
He pulls out a spyglass.
Yeah.
And they set up at the window, and he says, sir. And he points them to a ridge where you can see 19 British officers and 19 of his men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With guns aimed at him.
Mm-hmm.
And so they decide, you know, we agree. And so he leaves with his men. And then they go out there to get the officers, and it's just like basically scarecrows wearing red coats. And on his way out, as he leaves, the two Great Danes leave Cornwallis to go with him, and I was like, yeah, dude, get fucked.
Yeah, man. And so let's talk about lighting.
Yeah.
There was a lot of motivated light sources because electricity didn't exist in 1776.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of like candlelight and everything, candlelit scenes.
Yeah,
and
fuck your light bulbs.
Yeah, so I think he did a really good job pulling that off. The film was nominated. I know cinematography is different than lighting, but the film was nominated for cinematography at the Academy Awards. And
beautifully shot.
Yeah, but the lighting I think was very well done, especially on the battlefield scenes. And again, you know, shooting outside.
The battle scenes are awesome.
Dude, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Like shooting outside, and so the lighting, you know, they're using a lot of natural light, and but I do think the lighting was very well done. There's a lot of like rays of light. There's a lot of scenes in the woods, and you can see a lot of like rays coming through the trees, and when they're filming in the darker scenes with the candlelit scenes, it like they're putting shadows on the faces that are very well done. You know, split lighting, Rembrandt. I mean, they're using different, you know, dynamic lighting setups to help tell the scenes. So I think the lighting again
is pretty good.
Roland Emmerich on a technical level makes really good films.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9.
All right, I think I agree with you. Let's do direction.
Direction, pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good direction.
He pulls out. At times, it felt like Mel Gibson was like two different people. You know, when he's like Dad Mel Gibson versus Soldier Mel Gibson were like completely different people.
And I thought it was really good.
Yeah, pretty awesome. I feel like he got like he pulled the best out of everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, because
there was no bad performances.
Yeah, no, because Jason Isaacs did a really good job making me hate him.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this prick, dude. Ugh.
I'm telling you. Yeah. I think, obviously, like, outside of acting, you know, directing these battle scenes, you know.
Yeah, the battle scenes were awesome.
You know, directing, I mean, there were a lot of times when we would start with a master shot, and that's kind of a standard. You start with one wide master shot and you move into the closer shots, But he had a lot of times where, cutting in between people from those master shots, it was actually seamless. A lot of times in movies I notice it'll have that master shot and somebody might be speaking in that master shot and they might have their right hand raised, and when it cuts to them, their left hand is what they're speaking with, They don't really sync it up too well, and it looks like he meticulously directed these scenes so that doesn't happen. There was only
for one scene.
There was one scene where it was obvious, but he was also working with a child actor.
Yeah.
And not saying that it doesn't, take away responsibility from the scene, but it makes it a little more understandable. You can only have child actors on sets for, a certain amount of time, and there were a lot of children in this film.
A lot. I mean, the dude had 7 kids.
Yeah.
One of them was 18. Heath Ledger's character.
Yeah. But no, the direction in the scenes is very well done. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to it. I think the way he directed the pulled the best out of his actors.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the way that they shot Mel Gibson in the scenes where he was a dad versus the scenes where he was a soldier, he seemed menacing as a soldier.
Oh yeah, he was a bad mofo.
Yeah. So, what do you think for direction?
I'd give it probably an 8.5.
I think I can get behind that actually. The writing.
I thought the writing was good.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of cheesy moments, and there were parts where I'm like, okay, something cheesy's about to happen, and then they wouldn't do that, and I was like, okay, cool.
There were a few cheesy moments, but they were more subtle cheese. If Independence Day is, the popcorn cheesy, then this is Godfather cheesy, It was a lot more subdued. It was subtle. You would think they're gonna have that moment where when Benjamin Martin sees his the children's aunt, not his sister, but his deceased wife's sister, and you can tell that they kind of have a thing for each other. And you think that they're gonna do that scene, that shot, where he's looking at her, and it's the two of them, and you're like, oh, clearly setting this up, and then they only for half a second, it was just simply oh, it's good to see you again kind of deal.
Yeah.
They didn't just immediately fall for each other.
Yeah, it took a little bit for them to end up getting together.
Yeah,
it was not too far from the end of the movie, probably.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Yeah,
45 minutes before the end of the movie.
There's 2 romance subplots going on.
Yeah, him, Mel Gibson, and his
son,
sister-in-law.
Yeah,
and his
him and his son.
Heath Ledger's character.
You get what I'm saying? You knew what I was saying.
Yeah. Heath Ledger's character and someone from the nearby town that he hasn't seen since he was 11 the first time they see each other.
Everybody and their grandmother knew what I was saying when I said that.
I hope. So, and then it's
hot.
Mel Gibson's son, Heath Ledger's character,
Gabriel
gets married to the girl. And then 3 days later, she gets locked in a church and burned to death.
Yeah.
And then Gabriel goes to get revenge and gets killed by Malfoy.
Colonel Douchebag.
I don't know, it's just Malfoy.
I call him Colonel Douchebag.
I don't remember the name.
Colonel.
He was the leader of the
Harrington?
The Green Dragons or whatever.
I can't remember. Yeah, the Green Dragon, is that what they were called?
That's what they were called.
We are Flaming Dragon.
No. Which is, if you don't know, it's the cavalry.
Yeah.
He was the cavalry leader.
I think the writing was pretty good. I don't think it was as good as the guy directing it. I don't think it was as good as it looked. I think it was good.
What was good? What? Sorry.
I don't think the writing was as good as the direction.
No.
I think the writing was passable. I think it was good enough that it didn't distract from anything. Yeah. But it wasn't. There's not one piece of dialogue. I can't take a scene of dialogue there and just break it down and be look at how great this dialogue is. But it was good enough where it wasn't overly cheesy and it got us where we needed to be.
Yeah. We were watching it in the last fight when they all charge over the hill after the American soldiers. You buffoon! You utter idiot! You fool! You complete moron! You fell for one of the classic blunders.
Yeah, you fell for the classic blunder. Yeah, it was
dummies, dude.
Gaggle of fucking morons.
Yep.
Yeah, no, they let me send my troops over the hill where I can't see. Let's hope that they're okay.
Idiots.
Yeah, no.
Idiots.
That general was right. Hey, Colonel. He was like, command. Was it? He had a general. Was it Lord Cornwallis? Lord Cornwallis, you've taken the field, and he's like, I don't care, and I'm like,
yeah, this ends today, and I'm just like, all right, motherfucker,
whatever. Yeah, as if I couldn't just keep running in that direction.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like if I'm running away from them, and they're like, this ends today, and I'm like, I mean, I just keep running. I know these woods better than you.
Way better. Follow me into the woods, and you're fucked.
Yeah. You know what they call me in the woods? The ghost. That's what they call him. That's what they
called Mel Gibson.
I will say this. I think one of the things that kind of takes away, and this is just Roland Emmerich films in general, there's too many characters.
There were a lot of people.
Now, granted, in Independence Day, what happened is they had all these characters, and they dedicated a lot of time to each of them, but only just enough so that you get their stereotype. Yeah. And it's not like they did anything with that time. With this time, they only dedicate the majority of it to Mel Gibson and his immediate family.
Yeah.
Everyone else, there's a lot more sub-characters, but they mostly just get lines here and there, and they're just cool people.
The Frenchman
characters.
Gets some attention.
He does.
But of like the militia people, they really don't get a lot of attention.
They give you enough to care.
Yeah, exactly.
They give you enough to care.
They give you just enough to know these characters, and then that's it.
Yeah, and it's not like they do it just so that you care when they die, because a lot of them don't die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
one of them does.
No, more than one.
Oh yeah,
a lot of them died.
A lot of them died. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they did. Didn't they?
I think the biggest of all the militia deaths, the one I was like most bummed about was probably the preacher. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
I loved his line when he was like, a shepherd has to herd the flock and sometimes fight the wolves.
Tend his
dude,
flock, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good fucking line.
And he goes out like a G too. So the way that he goes out.
Oh yeah. He did.
Benjamin Martin. After Gabriel Martin, after they find that the church is burned down, they decide, okay, we're gonna, he leaves without telling his dad, and he takes a group of men with him, including the preacher, and they're like, we're gonna go get these bastards.
Because it was the preacher's church that was burned down.
Yeah, so I mean, he had stake in that too. So they're going, and they find them. They find Taffington, I think was his name, Colonel. Anyway, they find the evil colonel, the bad guy. Malfoy. They find Malfoy. Colonel Malfoy. He's he and his men are like by a river. He's like shaving, and they're camping, and they come over the hill with their horses. Gabriel Martin and his men, and like they have like a really cool battle scene. I mean, there's so many good battle scenes, but they had a really cool battle scene.
Any of them are bad.
And the way that the preacher went out is that he loaded his rifle, was going to shoot Malfoy. But then he noticed that Gabriel Martin needed help. So Gabriel Martin pulled out a knife, and he had a red coat on him. And the preacher hit the guy in the back and pushed him into Gabriel's knife, which was dope. And when he turned around, he got shot by Colonel Douchebag. Yeah.
And then as he falls, he like perfectly throws the rifle up.
He tosses the rifle up so that Gabriel can grab it. Like tosses it into Gabriel's hands, and he just turns and he shoots Malfoy in the gut.
Yeah. Misses. Barely wings his side.
Yeah, you're right.
But Malfoy plays dead. And then when Gabriel comes up to finish the job, he's going to stab him. He just like turns around and stabs him in the gut. And
with his sword, and kills him.
Leaves him for dead.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty lame. It sucks that
cool.
happened.
I mean, I thought it was good writing, though.
Oh, yeah, it was. It just, I was like, man,
well, yeah, because, I mean,
I definitely would have
Benjamin Martin.
sat where I was, reloaded my gun, and shot him in the head.
Yeah, but Benjamin Martin, was the guy that had to kill this guy.
No, of course, yeah. I'm just saying what I would have done.
Yeah.
If I were in that situation, I'm not trying to stab this dude 8 times to death. I'm trying to, put a couple more rounds in his back, and then I'll move him with a knife,
There's a bunch of muskets laying around. We just pick up one. One of them's got to be loaded.
Yeah, and if it's not, reload it.
Yeah. If anything,
but anyway,
pick up a sword and sit. If you don't have any ammo, pick up a sword and sit there and wait for him to try and like make a move.
Yeah.
Your dad's gonna come at some point looking for you. Gets there, Dad, shoot this guy.
Just bide some time, dog.
He's wounded. You're not. But still, what would you give the writing?
The writing, probably just a 7.
A 7. I can get behind that. Character development.
Yeah. It was alright. It was better than Independence Day.
Yeah, it was. Characters move on from lost loved ones.
Mm-hmm. One character sure doesn't.
Yeah, he dies. Yeah.
Yeah. One character finds his son and wife killed, and then just blows his brains out like immediately.
Yeah. And then Gabriel really didn't, because he found his wife dead and went and got killed trying to kill the guy who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson moves on. The Frenchman, we find out his wife and 2 daughters were murdered by the British.
That's character development.
And he does move on from that.
Developing a character, you're learning more about them. So.
Yeah.
There's two side characters. One is I got this. One is a slave.
Oh, right.
And the other one is the guy that played King Horik in Vikings. He's a white guy.
Which one was King Horik?
He was king in Vikings. He was King Horik. I don't know how else to say it. King of the Vikings.
Okay.
But so he's a white guy and he's racist. He
super racist.
Super racist. Like at one point, the Frenchman, gives the black man a musket and says, "This is a better musket suited for a fighter." And he says, "I don't know about you guys, but I don't really feel comfortable giving guns to slaves." And there was an order out that if you served a year in the militia, you get your freedom. And plus 5 shillings
for
a
every month served.
Yeah.
So 60 shillings automatically.
And your freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
if you served longer, you got more money.
So at first he's racist to him. In fact, when they were reading that sign, the black man was standing in front of it trying to read the sign, but he can't read. And the guy asks him, if you're going to stand there, why don't you tell us what it says? He says, "I can't read." So he walks up and says, "I can." And after he reads it, the black guy says, "Only 6 more months." And
after the racist dude reads it, he's like, "I can't believe that. First they want to free them, and then they want to pay them, and then
the black dude says, only 6 more months.
6 more months, and I'm good."
And he says, "What are you going to do with freedom?" And then throughout the film, after through various events, them fighting together. At one point, he gets shot, and the black guy saves him.
Mm-hmm.
Just fighting together, which is kind of cliche, but still, it is development. They're fighting together. They're surviving together, and by the end of it, they're next to each other on the battlefield. In a line
for the final battle.
Mm-hmm. They're in a line together, and he says, "Hey, it's been 12 months. You're free to go." He says, "I'm here of my own accord," and the white guy says to him, "I'm honored to have you with us." Honored. Yeah. So, that's development. And then for minor characters, too. Mm-hmm. For major characters, there's a little bit of development. Benjamin Martin goes from being completely against the war to, a patriot by the end of the movie. And, like you get the feeling throughout the film that he's only here because he feels like he has to be because his son is fighting. Mm-hmm. And he's here because, it's happening on his back door. But by the end of it, it really, he's developed into this guy I'm here because I'm a patriot. I mean, by the end of the movie, he's carrying the American flag and he's running it down,
Yeah.
I
honestly thought he was going to, spear the colonel to death with the flag, and I was like, dude, that's baller!
He didn't,
but that's not what happened.
But he did do it to the guy's horse.
Yeah.
He ran at him.
They run at each other, and he ducks the last moment, impales his horse, and then they have a good old-fashioned sword v tomahawk fight.
It's pretty cool, actually.
I thought it was pretty dope. Yeah.
There's a really cool shot where he gets him 5 times with the sword, nicks him.
Yeah.
He's on his knees, and you can just see guys running past him over the hill.
One of the guys that's running is carrying the flag.
Yep, running past him, and it's the sun. It's very bright, and you can see grain in the air. I mean, it is shot well.
There were a lot of shots that were just hands down wallpaper material.
Yeah.
Like screenshot that, use as your background. It was so dope.
But anyway, character development. I think there was some.
There was some, but not a bunch. I think I would go 6.5.
I was gonna go 6. Yeah, I can meet you at 6.5, but
no, just meet in the middle, 6.25.
Okay. Now, use of camera.
Use of camera's pretty good, dude.
This guy's
pretty good, dude.
Might be the best aspect of this film, and I would go so far as to give it above a 9. Right now we have lighting is at a 9. I think camera is 9.5, 10 maybe. It is.
I don't think it's 10. I would go 9.5. It's really good. Like, I mean, I was just talking about how awesome the shots are and how a bunch of the shots are like background material. It's awesome.
Yeah, it looks amazing. It really does.
Beautiful movie.
And you know, using it to tell the story. I mean, it's dude. When like, to give an example, when you see shots of Benjamin Martin, you know, when he's a dad and just being a dad and, you know, all that, it's these kind of like run of the mill medium shots, you know, very standard stuff. And I think that's just to capture the everyday life. But then when he's in the woods after he's massacred a platoon of soldiers, and he's just standing there and he's like turning back towards his like family, and like the way that they have him in like this wide shot, and you can see bodies in the background and laying around, and the beams of light shining through the trees, and which I would, you know, maybe I'm reading too far into this, but I would take that as like the black and white. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
The beams of light, so you can see the dark and the light, and it's like putting someone with a split lighting, but you're not just doing it to him; you're doing it to the entire scene.
Yeah.
In daylight.
Yeah.
And like the way that just the way that they shot this film.
It's out of this world.
So I'd
give it a 9.5.
I can meet you at 9.5. Pacing.
I liked the pacing of the movie. It was better than
Independence Day. Yeah.
Independence Day for sure. Because, you know, in this movie, the action rose and then it fell. You know, it wasn't like an immediate spike. It was a gradual rise to something, and then we would get a wind down time, be calm, and then it would gradually increase to another climactic moment.
It didn't just cut to Colonel Malfoy doing bad shit. It would cut to him speaking with his superiors. And his superiors are like, "You can't do this. You are serving under my command."
Cornwallis told him, he was like, like the shit that you do reflects on me. You got to cut that out.
Yep. And it just pisses him off even more. And then
yeah.
And then at one point, Cornwallis says, what could you do to get rid of this problem? Like it's. And, like, they talk about it a little bit. They don't say exactly what they're going to do, but they allude to it. And he says, like, Eve even says, if I'm going to do this, you and I both know I can never return to England with honor. And he's like, tell me about Ohio.
Which was, Ohio is where Cornwallis was going to get, right?
I think so.
Which, if some dude was like, I'll get rid of one threat for you if you give me the land that you're promised, like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, well, I don't think it was just giving the land that he promised, but just giving him land in Ohio, like ensuring that he has a setup there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And Cornwallis knows Ohio, so it's like, tell me about Ohio, And then he does bad things, and it builds to it. There's a rise and a fall, and it's almost like a good sound mix in that way. Like it's there's waves to it. It's not just peaking here and diving there, and there's really not any part of the film for me that drags.
I don't think so, no.
I think there's always something, in my opinion, interesting going on, and when it's not happening at on the battlefield, there were cabinet meetings that were cool. There were characters getting to reunite again. That was really cool, and sometimes funny. You're going to a bunch of different places. It's not all in the woods. There's open field. Not. There's the beach. I mean, they go to a lot of different places, and they go to a lot of different places. So I think
like Yorktown.
Yeah, Yorktown, Virginia.
Yeah, you're right. It's in Virginia.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, a lot of different settings. And even in these settings, we see multiple different locations. Like it's not like we're in this town. We're in this building in this town. We're in the church of this town. We're in this business of this town. It's good all around. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
So I'm gonna. What do you think for the pacing?
For the pacing, I give it like a 7.5.
I can meet you on that one. Yeah. Meaning behind the story. Freedom.
Yeah. Freedom good, but revenge bad.
But revenge was the message that revenge was
Sometimes
bad?
I felt their whole revenge, because remember, every time somebody would want to fight for vengeance, someone would be like, "No, this isn't about vengeance. This is not the time for vengeance."
You're right. Yeah, they did.
Because when the one character that kills himself finds his dead child, the preacher is like, now is not a time for vengeance. Now is a time for mourning.
And then he turns around and he goes after the guys after they burn his church down.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's sometimes easier to say.
And what happens to him because of that?
He dies.
He gets killed.
Gets killed. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Which,
freedom
can't
good,
blame
revenge
him for that
bad.
though. For real, can't blame him.
Oh, dude, I probably would have done the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Except I would have like snuck up on that hill and like.
Oh yeah, dude, I would have charged. You wait, you shoot a couple people, and then when they come to you, you got them.
Yeah. Are you gonna honestly, if you want to get them to come over the hill, you just pussies and then stay. Be like, what did he say? Have at me. Like,
y'all is yeller.
Oh my god. You yellow belly fucks. Like, you British bucktooth bitch. Like,
you lobster back bitch.
Throw some butter on that fucking coat. Like,
oh my god.
Some shit like that.
But
no.
yeah, I feel like it's like freedom good, revenge bad. I feel like that's the message, which is a good message.
I mean, they're good messages, yeah. And I mean, the way they told him was good.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't want to get in the war for the longest time, for the first, part of the movie, The inciting incident for the main story is his son being killed, and that's what gets him into it.
Yeah. So he starts out wanting vengeance, and then
it turns into,
he matures,
I want freedom.
and it's, I want freedom for my children, basically.
Yeah. Because
freedom good and revenge bad.
There was a price for that vengeance. Because of what he did, because he went after and killed all those people, Cornwallis had sent his best men to kill him. And that got his house, his
house got burned down.
His sister-in-law.
They didn't get married, but his sister-in-law, lover.
Yeah.
Her house got burned down.
Her house. Servants were killed.
Gets another of his sons killed.
Yeah.
It gets his son's wife and her family killed.
Yeah. I mean, literally all of the problems that befell him could have been avoided. Could have been after, for the most part, after his son was killed, all of his problems could have been avoided had he not gone for revenge, and he stayed out of it.
Yep.
But he didn't, and I don't blame him at all. I would have done the same thing.
Oh yeah, I would have.
But still,
that's not, if I'm like not gonna fight in a war, and then you come along and you do that to me, I'm like, all right, well, you just made an enemy.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Meaning behind the story.
Meaning behind the story, I give it a probably. I would just give it a 7, not because it's not a good meaning, not because it's told well, but revenge bad is frequent.
I mean, we just did a whole review of a video game last week.
Yeah, and the only meaning in that video game is revenge bad.
However, I will say this about that no, it's about be yourself. Anyway, I will say this though about in defense of us giving, I think we gave it a good review last week for the meaning part, and I'll say though it dove deeper into all the factors of revenge and anger, not just revenge but just hate and anger.
Last of Us 2 wasn't just about revenge bad. It was like you said, it was. You can spend more time on a topic in a 25-hour video game than you can in a 3-hour movie. Yeah. Which The Patriot was not 3 hours.
2 hours and
45 minutes.
45,
It was close, but it wasn't 3 hours.
Yeah. And honestly, it didn't feel like it to me. It doesn't feel that long.
It didn't feel that long to me. It felt about 2 hours to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a good pace.
Went by pretty quick. Yeah, because of the pacing.
Which almost makes me want to give it up to an 8, because it's 7.5. Almost makes me want to put that up to an 8, because it really...
I still think 7.5.
Okay. I guess I'm a little more generous. All right,
I'm trying to keep it real.
Shut up. Meaning behind the story,
give anything more than
7.
6.
And, oh my God. So we gave the meaning behind the story a 7. And diversity.
Okay, so there was it was kind of diverse. Not in the way, not in the specific, there were white people, black people, and Latinos. There were only white and black people.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of black people who were important characters. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, there's only one.
The one that was super important. The other ones had names.
Yeah, they were named characters that like the film did get you to care about, which was they weren't slaves, they were paid workers on Mel Gibson's farm, and they are kidnapped, and then later on we find them again. So there's that, but it is kind of diverse, and not in the way of like how many races, but there's Americans, there's rich Americans, poor Americans, French, British people, slaves, freed black people. So it's kind of diverse.
I think when you make a film that is about the times, like when you make a film that is a period piece,
yeah,
you have to take into account the period when you talk about diversity.
Yeah.
And for the time, I think that it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
The only thing that's not accurate,
it's a film that takes place in 1776.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate.
The only thing that's not accurate, and I don't know if this goes into the diversity or not, the people that worked his land were freedmen. That's not historically accurate.
Yeah.
They would have been slaves.
In the film, they were
freedmen.
Paid freed people.
Yeah. But I get why they did that, but that does kind of whitewash a little bit of the history.
Wait, you said have you like fact checked that?
I remember reading that when I was
okay.
Yeah, I remember reading that year. I could go try to find the source, but I mean I read about that years ago.
Yeah, like doesn't surprise me if that's the case.
Here's what I'll say though. They did it so that you didn't immediately hate the main character. And that's not to say look, all slavery's bad. That's not to say that
it's awful.
That's not to say that every slave master was abusive to his slaves.
Yeah.
It is I need you to work for me because it means that I don't have to pay you, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to take care of you.
Yeah, like I can.
That does not make slavery okay.
Yeah, it's like you're going to cook for me, but you're also going to eat at my table with me, and you're going to live in my home.
Well, I don't know about eating at my table with me.
Dog.
I don't think that ever. I don't know if that ever happened.
Well, I'm just giving examples.
Yeah, doesn't it make it okay in the slightest?
You're gonna live in my home with me. I'm not gonna like make you sleep out in a pig pen and whip you to get you to do what I want. You know, not all slave masters were like that. Some were
most of them.
Some
I'd even say
awful.
Yeah.
To their slaves, like god awful to their slaves.
Yeah. So I like what I'm saying is the reason they did it was to keep him from you hating him from the get go, which I kind of get from a storytelling standpoint. You don't want people to immediately hate your main character.
Yeah.
And like just because he was a slave owner does not mean there were not good qualities about this character. Mm-hmm. You know, Hitler was a good painter. Yeah. Hitler was a good artist.
Yeah, but fuck that guy.
Yeah, but fuck Hitler. Exactly. So you know, George W. Bush paints now. You know what I mean? You don't.
Not only does George W. Bush paint, all of the money that he makes from his paint, he gives to families affected by the deaths of 9/11.
Mm-hmm. So, you know. I guess what I'm saying is, you know, I get why they would do it. I don't agree with it. I think they should have been more accurate to it. But it's still, but even so, it didn't play an important role in the film.
It didn't. No.
They mention it once that they're freedmen.
Yeah, like when the British show up and they end up burning his house down, Malfoy tells them that any slave who fights on the British side. Any slave that fights on the British side will be freed when the war is over. And
whether they win or not.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, I'm not... You know, we're not slaves. And that's, like, the only time it's brought up.
Yeah. So, what do you think for diversity? What would you...
I'd give it a 5.
A 5?
Again, it's not crazy diverse.
I can't... I think it's higher than that. Because I'm, again, looking at it through the lens of the time. I would give it a 7.5. I can meet you at like 6.25.
I don't know. Okay, hold on. Let's talk about this. Yeah, for the time it is, I guess, diverse. But I don't know.
Listen. You're not gonna have
I'll go 6.
Look, trans people have been around forever, right? But it wasn't publicized, and it wasn't. Right. You didn't go around telling people. Right. So we're not going to see open trans. People.
I'm not saying that I'm looking for like that. I'm just saying
there weren't going to be Chinese people fighting in the Revolutionary War.
I'll go to 6.
Okay.
I'll meet you at 6.
Let's see, sound design. Sound design's great.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Baller.
Yeah. Because
technically,
it's like gunshot, bullets whistling, cannon fire, cannon thudding when they hit the ground. Also, the cannon whistling through the air. Yep. Screams in battle.
You can hear the powder exploding in the
you can
it's not just pow, it's Like
Yeah.
it's you can hear it. You know,
Yeah, I thought the sound was pretty good.
sound was great.
I give it an 8.
I was gonna go 9.
Uh,
I really do. I think
I'm
it's
at
phenomenal.
8.5, but I don't think it was 9 worthy.
I mean, I can go down to 8.5, but
I give the sound mixing in like a Dunkirk like a 9.5, and I think if Dunkirk gets a 9.5, this
one
one's
was great. I don't know, man. I think it was amazing. Production design. If you don't give this one a super high one, I mean,
I'll give the production design like a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, the production design was crazy good.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
One thing that I really liked, kind of a complaint, movie starts in 1776, and all of the actual military men we meet are wearing Navy coats. That was not the case. We did not get a standard uniform until much later into the war. So that's one complaint I have. Apart from that, it was great. Because the costumes, other than that, the costumes were very accurate. Because, like, the militia, they didn't wear Navy coats. They just wore their coats.
I mean, they wore their normal... They mostly wore brown. They were farmers.
Yeah, they wore the coats they had from home.
Yeah.
They did not have military-issue uniforms. They
didn't have military-issue weapons.
The British, from my knowledge, their uniforms are very accurate. Mm-hmm. The French character, he wore a French... At times, he wore his French uniform. It was very nice. The non-military characters wore clothes depicting the times. The buildings and the inside sets were incredible. So yeah, I give the production design a 9.
Do you notice in film there's like cinematic, period piece clothing, and then there's like in lower budget stuff there's like very bare bones period piece clothing. This had a good mix of both, to where it didn't feel like it was like he's made to look like the cool edgy hero, their take on that, and it's not so poor that they couldn't afford more authentic clothing. They really found a good mix of this is accurate and it doesn't look lame, because a lot of times you look at like older like period piece clothing, and you might think that just looks kind of it's the times. I don't really personally like it myself, but they did a really good job of capturing the like dirtiness and the raggedness of their clothes without it seeming like they were trying to look cool. It genuinely, the uniforms felt genuine in the film.
Yeah, and I thought it was great.
What'd you say, 9?
I give it a 9.
Yeah. So the review for it, our total score is 7.8.
I feel like that's fair.
I would round up to an 8.
I wouldn't.
I would.
I personally think that like solid number reviews are like an amateurish thing.
I mean, good for you, I guess. I don't know.
Gotta have that decimal point, baby.
I mean, if we're talking about that, in my mind, I think it would, in my opinion, deserves something like an 8.2. That's about where I hoped it would sit in my mind. Although, to be fair though, there are, most of the time there's a lot of these. You said a lower number and I said a higher number.
Yeah. And
we either went to the low one or we met halfway.
Yeah.
So, I think that my personal review would probably put it up to an 8.2, but this isn't just my personal review.
Right.
This is our joint review, and a 7.8 is fair. It's a fair review.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good movie.